gaming. The once niche hobby for nerds like you handsome viewers and myself has exploded over the last decade and eclipsed even the movie and music industries combined in overall global revenue. But how? I'm not the bloody internet historian, but it was probably because Toddy Howie threatened some guy at his game studio to start charging for horse armor separately from the base game. And since then, game developers, publishers and producers no longer ask themselves the question, how can we make a really good game? But rather, how can we make a really good syringe, jab it into as many gamers' hearts as possible, and suck out every nanogram of fun and money? Thus, we find ourselves in the giant poo sandwich that is modern gaming, that we built by voting with our own wallets. Players who actually enjoy games these days constantly have their guard up, cautiously auditing the next release of a title that they're interested in to see how badly the studio behind it wants to stab them with their get-fucked syringe of sadness. So that brings us to the point of this video. Does every dollar you spend in Star Citizen translate to power, convenience, or both? Have whales that already own every ship in existence ruined the game part of our ludicrous space game before it even had a chance to become an actual game? Are CIG's monetization practices justifiable? Will they ever stop selling ships? Should they pivot and sell Voidy Vids branded good ship renaming packages instead and give me 1% of each sale? The answer to the last one is yes, and as for the rest, let's begin.
Mutiny aboard the ship.
There exists a toxic wasteland load of paid for and free to play games out there on every platform that includes a truly egregious amount of micro and macro transactions that directly translate to some form of in-game power that will give you an edge over other players. The studios and publishers behind these titles have put a lot of investment into figuring out the psychology of their player bases in order to min-max the amount of cash they can extract from their wallets.
Let's Go Whaling. It is about a summary of a huge bunch of behavioral psychology. The tricks on how to monetize a game well.
This is not news, it's been this way for a while, and it's why games like Baldur's Gate 3 get heralded as the second coming of Christ because they totally exclude practices like this. But when it comes to your average modern game that does include some kind of monetization, some players get interested and will simply play and enjoy what the free-to-play or pay-to-play experience has to offer, probably at the cost of their soul. Some will probably throw a reasonable amount of money at the game to enhance their enjoyment, and this is perfectly justifiable to them because they're getting entertainment at whatever they consider to be their comfortable dollar to hour of entertainment ratio. And then some people with more disposable income than God will come along and spend the equivalent of a small country's GDP on the game to have all the power, all the cosmetics, and all of their time saved and still somehow find a reason to play the game, probably because it means they can drop a giant golden turd on anything or anyone else that tries to compete with them. And you know what? This is totally fine. People are allowed to spend their money however they want. Hate the game, not the player, but that doesn't mean I don't get to make fun of or attack every 890 jump I come across in Star Citizen for shits and giggles. No one on Earth can decide the value of something you spend your money on but you. It comes down to your principles and what you deem to be acceptable for you when it comes to how a game that you want to play and enjoy is monetized. I certainly have my video game spending habits, and as a big fan of the Total War series of games, titles that I return to once or twice every year or so, I find myself grabbing up their DLCs like Pokemon even though I haven't played 70% of the DLC factions I've bought. There's some kind of strange value to me there that another person might not understand, and that leads me to my next point. How a game's monetization is perceived makes all the difference. It's no secret that Star Citizen's reputation in the eyes of mainstream gaming for selling exorbitantly priced ships is controversial to say the least. But before we get into that, two good recent examples of how monetization can change the way players perceive games differently are Helldivers 2 and Dragon's Dogma 2. These are two very different games, one being a single-player fantasy RPG and the other a democratic co-op multiplayer horde mode shooter. For me personally, both have exceptionally fun and engaging combat mechanics, but let's look at how they've been monetized. Both titles have an upfront cost, and Helldivers 2 has a premium in-game currency called Super Credits that allows you to make armor purchases on the Superstore or unlock war bonds which further provide access to weapons, armor, and cosmetics. This premium currency is available to you simply by playing the game, but you can pay real money to buy Super Credits to save time. It's worth noting that these weapons tend to be balanced horizontally rather than vertically. You aren't unlocking stuff in Helldivers 2 to necessarily acquire more power. You're unlocking more stuff to have access to more ways to build your squads to deal with harder difficulties in different ways that suit you. Sure, certain weapons might be overpowered for a while, but the trend has been for the developers to balance things fairly quickly. Here you can see I'm a mere 150 super credits short of unlocking the next war bond. I either need to grind out a few maps to pick up the super credits I need, or who the fuck am I kidding, when Mother Liberty provides the opportunity to have a pistol that shoots fucking grenades, you swipe that goddamn credit card in the name of democracy, or get branded as a socialist traitor and sent to freedom camp. Everyone loves Helldivers 2. No one is complaining about how Helldivers 2 is monetized. If you think Helldivers 2 is monetized badly, the Ministry of Truth will find you, you mindless automaton. On the other hand, Dragon's Dogma 2 is, in my opinion, also a great game. I had a ton of fun in it and it was well worth the price for admission. But this title has a bunch of DLC that is absolutely pointless, and just about everything here is available in-game by simply playing the game, not unlike Helldivers 2. But the mere fact that items like the Port Crystal appear on the Steam DLC list for the title makes it look like you need to pay real-world money to simply fast travel in a single-player game. You do acquire Port Crystals by simply exploring and generally just doing stuff throughout your adventure, but they are limited. So this is some form of pay for convenience that arguably should not even exist, and this is justifiably enough to prevent potential fans from ever playing it. The way an audience perceives the monetization practices of a game development company can do way more harm than good. Even though Capcom's DLC for Dragon's Dogma 2 was absolutely pointless and you can 100% ignore every item on this page and still experience 100% of what the game has to offer and have a great time with the game, the mere existence of this DLC has absolutely prevented many players from experiencing a pretty fantastic title. And that's totally fine. Their principles, their money, their values. This is how monetization practices can impact how people perceive a game.
And people wanted to know my take on Star Citizen, and I don't like it, and the reason why is because of this. Because the game feels more like a storefront than a game. How many of you guys have spent over $1,000 on Star Citizen? And it's okay, don't worry, I'm not going to berate you. You can spend your money whatever way you want. So they have a secondary store that they try to give to people that have already given $1,000. So there's a store within a store. It's a whale page, yes. This is why I won't be playing Star Citizen. It is not because the game doesn't have promise, because it does. It's because of this. This is gross, dude. It's gross to me. It's not about greed, it's gross. To me, this is predatory, and it's something that I don't want to see in our industry, so it makes me not want to engage.
What his name is Thor? Winning the genetic lottery to have the best head of hair I've ever seen on a human is one thing, but having parents cool enough to call you fucking Thor is a whole nother level. What Pirate Software is saying here is true. Star Citizen has sold a dream to many people and capitalized on the psychology and emotions of its whales and normal players alike to make over $670 million. Hyped up patches are often released prematurely or features cut for builds of the game to hit live servers sooner than they're ready to meet yearly ship sale events, and at the same time, the storefront gets a coat of paint and FOMO tactics are used to push even more sales, year after year after year. The Star Citizen monetization machine knows its audience and knows how to continue to finance the game. But it's not like we're living in the darkest timeline where Chris Roberts sells oxygen or refinement booster packs. Yet. The question whether Star Citizen is truly pay to win has a bit of nuance. The short answer is probably yes. The long answer is if player A buys an Eclipse, a stealth bomber, for $300, which is a crazy price for a ship you can easily buy in-game, and player B buys an Origin Junkworks 890 Jump Super Space Yacht for $950, which is just insane, who bought more power? In this example, the Eclipse simply fires a giant oversized torpedo at the whale yacht and will win this encounter probably probably 100% of the time. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that the whale yacht probably won't even see the eclipse coming in the first place because it's a stealth ship and is designed to remain undetected. It's worth mentioning again that both of these ships are available to earn in-game. But the ship or ships that you decide to spend real money on will determine your earning potential at the start of the game, whatever or whenever that may be. Then the conversation gets more complicated, because if player B fully crews his ship with friends and all his turrets are active, did his amount of purchased power just increase? Does player B have anyone to crew his ship in the first place? Should he be able to solo pilot the 890 jump and buy his friends? To the public eye, Star Citizen has made so much money that people have speculated that it's not in the game's best business interests to actually ever release, because if they can simply perpetuate development indefinitely, they can continue to sell ships and make millions without ever actually releasing a game. I'm not a professional game industry economist, I'm a dumb YouTuber. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But I don't believe that's the case, because surely releasing Squadron 42 and turning Star Citizen into the best game it can possibly be will be a much more sustainable way for the project to make money and gain more positive public interest. What I do think is true is that if predatory and insane monetization practices rampant throughout the gaming industry is evil, then the way Star Citizen has and continues to monetize itself is perhaps a necessary evil.
Like I've said this before, right? Is that I don't like the idea of servers, and I think servers are a technological limitation. And I'm so fucking glad that there's a legitimate developer that somehow managed to get $700 million that agrees with me. This is great.
We're all hoping that server meshing is the magic bullet that will turn our beautiful, janky, crazy, mostly broken ass dream science fiction game from what we've been experiencing for the last 10 years to an actual consistently functional and enjoyable experience. Well, not just server meshing, because we also still need a host of gameplay mechanics that we're still waiting for to provide actual, logical reasons and goals to motivate players to actually play the game in the first place and enjoy some kind of meaningful progression along the way. But are Star Citizen's monetization practices possibly justifiable, no matter how bad a $48,000 ship JPEG package looks like to the average observer? What if this was the only way forward for a game development company to produce a title that actually strives to create interesting and exciting new technology like dynamic server meshing to make something truly galactic in scope and so detailed that we will probably never see anything quite like it in our lifetimes? I honestly hope we do, because nothing would be better for Star Citizen than some actual competition. I play and make content for Star Citizen because of its potential. It's served as a foundation to experience some of the most intense and fun emergent gameplay that I have honestly not seen or been able to experience in any other title. Yes, it's fucking jank most of the time, but if CIG finally get things right and the game finally becomes less tech demo and more game, then mainstream audiences will get the opportunity to click with the title and have their aha, I get it moment. And if the only way to achieve it was by using a disgusting, predatory and unethical business model, then so be it. The AAA gaming industry is a stagnating cesspool that lacks innovation, where all the money goes to extracting as much money out of consumers anyway, with the same old re-released games that achieve nothing new. I'm not saying that every title that gets released has to be as ambitious as Star Citizen, or we'd get no new games for the next 20 years. And not every game is trying to jab us with the soul-crushing syringe of sadness. 2023 and so far 2024 have seen some absolutely incredible titles. I'm saying that it's sad that there aren't 10 other projects like Star Citizen in development, all developing and competing to make insane server technologies to push what's possible in games forward. Where's the next groundbreaking 10,000 player per server fantasy RPG MMO with physics like Grand Theft Auto, combat like Elden Ring, and vast open worlds like Lord of the Rings from the books? Is it this? This is just WoW with extra steps. The ecosystem of the AAA gaming industry revolves around monetization. Everything feels like a cash grab without a soul, and absolutely no one is willing to invest in truly pushing tech forward to make the super games of the future we thought would exist when we were kids. Most big studios are just pumping out titles designed by committee, and the committee is not there to design a good game. The committee is there to figure out how to get the most money out of a barely minimum viable product. The horrendously evil monetization practices are here to stay and are happening with the blandest and most generic games anyway, so I would rather see these horrendously evil monetization practices get used in something like Star Citizen to create something new and innovative from a technological standpoint like server meshing and break some mold in the stagnant cesspool of an industry that we call modern gaming. After I finished working on this video and clicked the render button, some shit happened, so I'm going to inject this here quickly. Man, what great timing. The Escape from Tarkov community woke up to a new $250 version of their game that has basically set their entire community on fire. That's like 4.5 Mirai Furies or 1 Origin Junkworks 400i. I don't play Tarkov, but I know it has an incredibly dedicated and hardcore player base that adore the game.
Oh my, what's happening? I hate this game!
My understanding is that this new edition flirts dangerously close with pay-to-win mechanics, but I think Tarkov's gameplay is a bit more nuanced to write it off so simply. The previous $150 edition was supposed to be like a lifetime pass that guaranteed you access to all future content that the devs would provide, but they have actively reduced the value of what they sold before to make a new edition include the illusion of more content. The only reason I can think of that they released this shamelessly overpriced cash grab is that they need more money to invest in hiring a research firm to better understand their player base's psychology so that they can better monetize them in the future, provided there are any Tarkov players left after this shit show. The absolute swamp of degradation that is monetization of modern gaming continues. Nothing is sacred. Thank God for the whales who've poured nearly $700 million into our ludicrous space game. Their efforts would at least allow us to experience some evolution in the MMO gaming space, and I guess that's why some of us have been along for the ride for over 10 years. It's not for anyone to judge how you've spent your money. It's not for anyone to shame you for what you place value on. But it's my God-given right that once Star Citizen is fully dynamically server meshed and you're a whale who's contributed to our ludicrous space game's financial success, and I come along to interdict, pirate, and procure all your cargo and eject you into the cold, harsh void of space, I will be sure to say thank you for helping create the game of our dreams. Thank you, channel patrons and channel members, for all your support. Your incredible generosity continues to blow me away. Thinking of pledging to this ludicrous space game? Then use one of the referral codes on screen now for a free 5,000 starting credits. If you enjoy my content and are interested in supporting the channel beyond a like and a subscribe, check the links in the description. Consider the join button below and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/voidude. Your continued support genuinely helps me to continue producing these videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you around the verse. Cheers.
Hit it back.
Yes!
I need like one more shot on you.